Today I'm going to share how I used India ink and water to create an amazing in-camera effect. Lindsay Adler here, and one of the things that I love is to collaborate with other artists. What's really nice about that is when you're working with other creatives like hairstylists, makeup artists, wardrobe stylists, is that they bring you ideas. It's not all up to me to constantly come up with the ideas for the next shoot. They might send me inspiration that they've been looking at in magazines or online. And so my makeup artist for this shoot, she actually showed me a photograph of India ink and water. And so it's these little vials of liquid ink. And what it does is it makes these beautiful plumes, almost like smoke when it enters the water. And so she proposed that we do a shoot using this technique for a creative in-camera effect. So this was actually completely her idea, and I love how it turned out. So let's take a peek behind the scenes of how this effect is achieved, not through some magic of post-processing, but actually in camera. So first, let's look at the creative effect. What I did is I bought a narrow vase. And the reason that I did this is I knew I was going to have the subject's face behind the vase, but if it was too thick or round, it would distort her face. So the narrower, the better. And I just bought it on Amazon. And then I went online and I bought a collection of India inks so that I could play with different colors. And so that's what you see there. You see the vase, the water, and the India ink. But now let's talk a little bit about the lighting. Fundamentally, this is a one light setup. Now, if you actually look at the shot, you see other lights, but we didn't end up using them. The main light and the only light that I ended up using is a Profoto white beauty dish with a grid. And the reason I love this is it's a beauty dish. It's beautiful for flattering the face and the skin texture. But you'll notice the position. It's actually relatively high up to her face. And the reason that I have it so elevated is so that there would not be a reflection in the glass. If I used a big softbox or I used the beauty dish much lower, I would get a reflection in the glass, which is going to become a huge distraction and impossible to Photoshop out. So that's why you see that angle. And I used a grid because originally I was trying to make the background dark, and a grid will help with that. Now you'll see on either side, there are actually two small white umbrellas and they have a teal gel. But for the final shot, I ended up just cropping in and doing a nice tight shot. So you don't even see the background. So this could be completely achieved with just a single light. Now let's talk about my camera and the gear that I'm using. I use a Canon 5D Mark IV and a 180mm macro lens. And the reason I selected that macro lens is so I could get so tight and close up and get all the detail of the smoke in the skin. But there's one more important thing to notice here, and that's my aperture. In this image, I am shooting at an aperture of f20, and I hardly ever do that. But there was an important reason for this shoot. I shot at f20 because when I was at a wider aperture, even at even f8, what would happen is the ink in front of the face would be completely out of focus and only the face in focus. Well, if I focused on the ink, then the face would be completely out of focus. So I needed to shoot at f20 in order to get both the ink and her face in focus. And that's why I went to an ISO 800 so that I could shoot at f20 and still have enough light without having to turn my light up to full power. So let's actually take a look at what I captured in camera, because this image had quite a bit of color grading and processing in order to get it to its final result. So let's take a look. This is actually what I captured in camera. Now you'll notice the picture is a lot less saturated. It's a lot less bright. It's a little bit murky, but there's a reason for that. The ink in front of the face, when the light passed through it, it's kind of a greenish colored ink. Well, guess what it did to the skin? The light passed through it and made the skin look kind of greenish. And so there was a lot that I had to do. I also was looking at the makeup, and the makeup was yellow and blues and greens, and I wanted the skin to be pale, maybe introduce a little bit more of that blue. So I shot tethered, and as I was shooting tethered, it was into Capture One, and I started adjusting the white balance and the contrast and the saturation. So without going into Photoshop, just with my color grading of the raw file, this is what I got, which is such a huge difference. Most of what I did was desaturate skin tone, cool down the white balance, increase the contrast like crazy, and pop the whites. That's what got me there. Now, analyzing this image, it looks pretty good so far, even without going into Photoshop, but there's a few things I would change. There's a couple transitions for skin texture that I would improve. I think that the little bit of the ink above the nose might be a distraction, and also her eyes look a little bit dark. So my post-processing after Capture One in Photoshop was fundamentally fixing those things. So you can see smoothing out the skin, lightening up the eyes, and also brightening up both the saturation and the exposure of the ink on the left-hand side of the frame. So here's what we captured, and then this is what we ended up with in the very end. I love this technique, and I experimented with it in every color you could imagine, and blues and magentas and this almost toxic looking green yellow, and I love the results that we got. And so my encouragement to you is perhaps to find other creative collaborators, other people to bounce ideas off of, other people to send you inspiration, because that's one of the things that I have found has helped me grow the most. If you'd like to learn more about the gear used for the creation of this image, be sure to check the links in the description or visit adorama.com. And of course, if you want to see more videos like this, more photo deconstruction, and to be inspired for in-camera creativity, be sure to subscribe. See you next time.